welcome again, and thanks to everyone who has been introducing themselves in the chat. As I said, I'm Andrea Baer with the USAID Office of Population and Reproductive Health in Washington, and I'm really pleased to welcome you along on behalf of my colleagues Judy Maboya with the FHM Engage project and Elizabeth Pena also with the FHM Engage project. The Healthy Markets Community of Practice, as many of you know, but maybe not all of you, focuses each month on a different country, looking at market development and private sector engagement for increasing access to family planning. And we're really pleased this month to profile India, and very happy to have worked with our colleague Amit and to welcome our colleagues from USAID India. So together, Amit and colleagues have prepared a fantastic lineup. This is a 2-hour session today, so a little bit longer than some of them, but we'll still have a number of speakers and hopefully still allow great time for discussion. Just a couple of housekeeping reminders. This will be recorded because we retain the slides and the recording on the Health Market Links website for later reference, especially for people who may not be able to join due to the time zone. I think everyone is generally very good at remembering to stay on mute, so thank you for that. We will have a fairly rapid pace. We appreciate our speakers understanding that we're targeting sort of 8 minutes per presentation. And really the concept here is to develop a community of practice where we hear from many people and can learn from each other and allow time for discussion afterwards. So Judy and I will co-facilitate. I will serve as timekeeper. And so when speakers get to sort of the 7-minute mark, I'll come back on camera and start to let you know if you're a speaker that you need to wrap it up so we can move on. And please do, audience, please do put your questions and comments in the chat, as some can be responded to during the course of the conversation. And then at the end, we'll come back to everything there, and Judy will lead a discussion and invite people to come off mute as well. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Judy. I think that I'll just make one last comment that I think our co-sponsor, UNFPA and Ben Light, may not be on the call yet today. So Ben may join us later, and at that time we'll invite Ben to make any comments in the discussion section as possible. And so with that, over to you, Judy.
Thank you, Andrea, for those opening remarks. My name is Judith Mboya, and I work on the Frontier Health Markets Engage project. This webinar series is hosted by USAID and UNFPA, and the Frontier Health Markets Engage project is the secretariat. The Frontier Health Markets project is a USAID-funded private sector health project designed to provide technical assistance to local market actors. The technical assistance is aimed at strengthening private sector participation, therefore contributing to more equitable provision of and access to high quality family planning, maternal, neonatal, child health products and services within mixed health systems. FHM Engage's market development approach focuses on addressing the root causes of market failures to create the necessary behavior and systems transformation for sustainable change. Interventions are aimed at several objectives, including identifying market failures, intended to understand the underlying issues and barriers within the market that prevent it from functioning effectively or efficiently. Behavior change, encouraging stakeholders within the market to adopt new behaviors that promote sustainability, fairness, and efficiency. Systems transformation, working to transform the underlying systems and structures within the market to address root causes of failure. Sustainable change, ensuring that the interventions lead to lasting and sustainable change within the market rather than short-term fixes by building capacity within local institutions, fostering partnerships and promoting knowledge sharing and learning, and inclusivity and equity, ensuring that the interventions are designed to benefit all stakeholders within the market, including marginalized and vulnerable populations. By focusing on these objectives, FHM Engage aims to create lasting and positive change within markets by addressing the root causes of failure and promoting sustainable development. It is now my honor to introduce Dr. Amit Banot, who's the Chief of Party for FHM Engage India. Dr. Amit is a highly experienced health systems development professional with over 25 years of expertise. He specializes in adopting technical and operational approaches to local contexts, establishing engagement platforms, and facilitating the stewardship of health systems by local market actors. He has worked extensively across multiple geographies in Asia and Africa, contributing significantly to the advancement of public health initiatives. Dr. Amit, over to you to kick us off for this India session.
Sure. Thanks, Judy. I don't have slides, but I'll just speak it over. So in 2023, when we started work in India under the guidance of USAID India, and the mandate was to look at what are the ways in which the market is failing the consumer, which are the consumers which are not getting accessibility and affordability to family planning products, and then understand the supply side, what are the challenges that many of the players are facing. What we also wanted to understand was the systemic opportunities to leverage the full potential of private sector across the supporting functions, what we call under a market development approach, the functions of financing, public or private, rules, regulation, norms. Is there anybody sharing data or market data regularly, and how is it being used? And then stewardship with respect to public and private sector coordination, bringing them together to discuss issues which can help to leverage the full potential. We went around asking information and key informant interviews across multiple health value chain actors. We spoke with manufacturers, domestic and national multinationals, who you will come to know from the presentation that is shared by Shankar around the market description. What are they seeing within the Indian market around contraception? We spoke with marketing agencies, social marketing agencies, which are now basically evolving into commercial marketing agencies or social enterprises. We spoke with distributors within various states. India has multiple states. We spoke with distributors in Maharashtra. We spoke with distributors in Karnataka, in the northeast states of Assam and Guwahati to get contextual challenges. We spoke with aggregators of distributors. There are many platforms in India who are now aggregating the interactions between distributors and chemists, Retailio, PharmaTrack, and so on. We spoke with clinic managers and agencies which have been working on scaling clinics, whether international agencies or agencies which are subsidiary of international agencies. We also spoke with individual clinic providers. We spoke with charitable hospitals. We spoke with NGO trusts. And then we also spoke with civil society and NGO groups, including who kind of help to also understand the views of consumers. And we try to understand that we want to reach out to youth 15 to 29 as much as we can. And then similarly, what is the role of development partners within this domain? People who convene alliances. There are in fact multiple alliances, and they have been doing some fantastic work, and we'll get to hear maybe in the following sessions. But today, in what we have brought them together, so you will hear from a manufacturer who has been trying to get more products out into the market which are more suitable for youth population. They have been very successful internationally, very successful nationally also within domestic market, but now also wanting to see how can that be catalyzed. We'll have one marketing agency sharing their views on introducing more products for young population and also including the sub-Q. We'll have people from conveners of in the sense of how pharmacy education programs who are looking at linkages between pharmacies and what is the potential for pharmacies from donors and implementers together. And then we'll speak with people who are managing the consumer side, whether online platforms or offline platforms, in addition to the entrepreneurial framework that we have in India that quite successfully targeted to developing the women economic empowerment or women entrepreneurs. All in all, how women's health or family planning can enable the decrease in unplanned events so that women can continue on their journeys to getting more or increasing the labor force participation rate for India, and which is a G20 priority also, which came out last year when India was the G20 convener. And then similarly, more women in leadership positions, and where again family planning becomes an enabling factor. So I just hand over to Andrea to start the introductions on the presentations. We like to give as much time as we can to them to share their work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amit, for that setup for the discussion. I'm going to just pass it immediately over to Shankar to provide a summary of the family planning market description, which was completed. Shankar, over to you. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, everything. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the first slide?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Hi, following from Amit's description, I'm going to take you through the journey in 8 minutes of how did we design an inclusive process that led to key interventions that we have deployed, and that starting from me and ending with Priya, several of us will come in and talk about the roles that we have created across different functions. FHM Engage uses a development approach that works with local market actors across public and private. And one of the processes that we have learned working in India and developing this approach further is that how it's important to be inclusive across the diagnosis and the design phase. So the lead picture that you saw was essentially starting from Feb of last year and ending in July. Amit, working along with Moni and Komal from the USAID India mission, led a design phase, which allowed us to talk to several market actors across the core supply and demand. While we started out with talking to different private sector actors, we also ensured that we had state representation. So we traveled to 2 states and we talked to several local market actors there in Maharashtra and then Assam and Guwahati. Essentially, the 4-step process allows us to define a very clear vision. FHM Engage vision for India for a healthy FP market is that which is responsive, resilient, and equitable. And this is extremely necessary because as we started the market development approach, we were coming against a background of 3 things that had shaped the new world post-COVID. Number 1, inequities had accelerated, vulnerabilities had accelerated. Number 2, private sector did a terrific job in India demonstrating its innovation, and Serum Institute as a manufacturer, as you know, globally stood out not only its supply of vaccines to India, but also as a global exporter. Third, government rebounded wonderfully well, providing stewardship from a severe lockdown to getting millions and millions of Indians vaccinated on time. And hence, it was a new normal in which it was extremely important to address all the inequities that had happened post-COVID. Second, it was extremely important to ensure that stewardship of government was responsive and resilient. And third, private sector did get to demonstrate the ability to have its innovation and scope demonstrated in India. I'll quickly tell you what the key takeaways are of the market description. On the right, many of you have seen the population pyramid. It's a young nation. One of the things that this particular population pyramid hides, but it's very apparent if you notice very closely, is that the female to male ratio in India is 0.63, 48% of females to 51% of males. That is a chronic problem that India has always faced. One of the challenges on gender inequality is, of course, driven by son preference in India, as many of us know as a cultural norm. However, the other thing that's extremely important to highlight here is that India's female labor force participation has fallen from 40% to 27% and is anticipated to go down further. So the gender inequality is being accelerated and interventions need to address the gender inequality. In terms of what we have key takeaways for you for demand, we do know that low knowledge and use in early years is linked to high levels of unmet need. This is extremely crucial, especially in Northeast states where we find higher rates of teenage pregnancies. In terms of quality of use, one of the things we notice is the key reason being side effects, and generally across both public and private sector, post continuation support is not being managed well, specifically when it comes to hormonal methods like OCPs and TNPA. Youth prefer discrete and on-demand modern methods. On supply, we highlight three key takeaways. Contraceptive private sector market is primarily driven by condoms, which is only 5% of MCPR. Starting from 2015 to 2022, we see that while the market has grown, no value segment, volumes have significantly not grown. India has a dynamic manufacturing capacity for a range of hormonal methods. Many Indian manufacturers have pre-qualified authorization, also have US FDA licenses. They export to several Western countries, a range of oral contraceptive methods and contraceptive commodities. However, this manufacturing innovation and scope is not demonstrated in the domestic market. Third, historically, India has been dominated by free and subsidized sector supplies, and private sector has not had incentives to invest in family planning category. On the supporting function, family planning policy and guidelines do not prioritize private sector participation. One of the things that we are going to highlight is service delivery and drug dispensing policies leave an unlevel playing field for private sector. And of course, as many of you know, India has a national list of essential medicines, which mandates price control guidelines. This makes product introduction and product extensions costly due to lower margins. The big takeaway, as I said, is that thriving private sector remains underutilized in domestic backyard. Technically, short-acting methods like condoms, pills, and ECP are dominated by private sector, and the permanent methods, including LARCs, are dominated by the public sector. One of the things that's important to think about is today you have a chemist in India who is at 5 to 10 minute walking distance, and most chemists in India stock condoms and emergency contraceptive pills. The big highlight, of course, is there are close to around 64 plus Indian manufacturers of family planning commodities. They are among the top large exporters of condoms, LARCs, and OCPs globally, but production capacity is underutilized for domestic growth. And of course, when it comes to distributors who do the bulk of the selling and redistribution for the last mile solutions, hardly 17%, according to our calculation, carry contraceptive products. And contraceptives and family planning are very low in their priority because of low sales and low margins. We have 30,000 OBGYN who bear the brunt of providing services in the private sector, but most of these OBGYNs are concentrated in urban centers. Demand is distorted and does not meet the aspirations of youth. India has been always innovative. As pioneers of social marketing, India did a terrific job over the last 5 decades in ensuring that private sector participation and social marketing thrived in an atmosphere where government came in and subsidized commodities. However, these policies and guidelines are not kept in pace with demands of what the youth want. Hence, the current FP positioning for just limiting of spacing is unattractive for youth who want choice and freedom of sexual well-being. Youth need privacy, confidentiality, non-judgmental care. Unfortunately, the service and sales outlets across both sectors, public and private, are neither discreet nor free of bias. And of course, discontinuation continues to be very high in hormonal methods. One of the things that we discovered was none of the private sector actors to address discontinuation and provide support during adoption and post-adoption. We come to the supporting functions, and I just wanted to highlight the 4 key things that are causing a very unlevel playing field for the private sector. While improved stewardship of family planning has always been a call out in India, one of the things post-COVID is that we quickly realized is that the SP 2023 program had a very clear articulation for market development. However, what has been written down in document was not fleshed out. Besides, there has been a lot of decentralization that has happened in health in India, and hence a family planning department, which over the last 2 to 3 decades did a terrific job in adding newer products, unfortunately let go of opportunities for private sector participation. These are not clearly defined, and currently there's an inherent tension between what is a national guideline and what can happen at a state level. There's an absence of coordination for private sector engagement. This comes from deep mistrust that's quite natural between the two sectors that has been developed over the years. But this also led to a lack of complete absence of PPP dialogues that's happening. Illustratively and historically, we know that while there are a lot of PPP schemes, currently these PPP schemes have 2 chronic problems that have remained unaddressed. One is absence of payments on time and absence of commodity supply on time. I'm sure Vivek will be coming back later today. We'll talk about this absence of coordination. Social marketing, which used to do a good job until early 2000, has started falling apart. The third is lack of market development capital. We did mention that across the supply chain, there was less market capital for development. And so that is specifically when it comes to distributors, there's a lack of market capital. And of course, a dearth of market intelligence, which does not allow coordinated action for supply to meet demand. So we identified the need for a stewardship, financing, and intelligence platform to keep in pace with aspirations of youth. For those of us who need all the details, this is how the things come together. This is just one illustrative example of how we describe what's the problem we are solving, and we got and described the constraints, and then we walked it up to activities that led to desired outputs. We said we wanted to establish a platform, and hence this particular intervention led to the design of Women's Health and Livelihood Alliance, which will work across 5 thematic areas. Priya and Komal, who will come after me, will do a deep dive of what VOLA is. If you need more resources, here are the resources with links to FHM project website. Thank you.
Shankar, thank you so much. Super interesting and a lot more to unpack there, of course. Now I am happy to introduce Komal Khanna, who is going to present on social behavior change work, I think, in part from her prior role in Shops Plus as Chief of Party. So over to you, Komal. And Elizabeth, are you bringing up the slides again, or is Komal presenting them?
Thank you, Andrea, for the introduction.
Yeah, over to you.
And thank you for the opportunity to present the work that we had done and in Shops Plus, which is a USAID funded project. And I'm going to share a snapshot of how we were expanding the contraceptive market through innovative SPC approaches and partnerships in this USAID project. Next slide. So India had a complex problem when we started. India has the largest youth population in the world, but had also a stagnating contraceptive market. The reasons being various misconceptions around condom use, lack of trust in OCPs, and a lot of stigma associated to buying condoms, along with some restrictive environment where price ceilings and advertising restrictions were not letting the market grow. Along with that, there were some supply issues which were hampering the market. And this was the problem statement that we started with. Next slide. So we used a 360-degree approach to social and behavior change communication to generate demand for contraceptives, where we devised interventions that were targeted towards the youth through diverse channels, and the messages were delivered along the multiple entry points, and they were strategically aligned to create a surround sound effect. Next slide. And these interventions were strategically placed through an IDA funnel, which is basically creating awareness, creating interest, creating a desire, and then finally creating action by the youth who would be able to buy the condoms or the contraceptives that they needed. So we were nudging the consumers along the decision to buy pathway through our interventions. And once we had the interventions, proof of concept rolled out, we started working with the corporate partnerships to achieve scale and sustainability. Next slide. Our first campaign was promoting OCPs with the Government of India. There was a need cap because awareness for OCP was low at that point of time, and we had to rebuild the trust in the pill. So we released 3 TVCs in partnership with the Government of India, and it was aired by the Government of India's resources. We reached out to 43 million people, and this led to increase in the OCP sales by 124% in shops per states, vis-a-vis 64% increase in the sales in the other states of India. And this was launched by the health minister. Next slide. This was combined with on-ground interventions where we reached out to the communities in their markets, beauty parlors, slums, and clinics. And along with that, we also had Educate campaign with MTV, where we reached out to 1 million youth through radio series that continued for 3 months. And this was combined with on-ground activations of how the youth could be reached through the gyms and the colleges, and they were engaged through youth clubs. Next slide. We pioneered a workplace intervention model where 8,000 employees in 10 companies were taken through an in-person and online sessions. And a smartphone-based app, Khulke, was integrated with an e-commerce and a chatbot so that they could get personalized counseling through all these mechanisms. Next slide. And to address the challenges of a stagnating condom market, we established Condom Alliance, which was the first platform condom marketplace in 2019, which was basically a shared vision was created with a unified voice, where the market drivers came together and collaborated to grow the condom market and contributed to the health and well-being of youth in India. And they further came together to advocate to the government for their priorities and to provide an enabling environment for the condom marketers to grow the condoms for the youth. Next slide. We established Condom Alliance as a market leader, and more than 100 media reports were released where the condom marketers themselves wrote these reports in the media to advocate with the government. And we further amplified their messaging through websites, Twitters, and LinkedIn handles. Next slide. The condom marketers came together to launch a digital condom campaign, which was a musical video called Kaun Dum Hai, Who is Dumb, Use Condom. And this was primarily for the youth, and we reached out to 21 million youth. This was a musical video where there was, which was amplified by 100 influencers who had a dance step challenge. And this was one such campaign that received a global award, 10 Lives Award. And this was something that went viral across the country. And this was the first category campaign released for condoms by Condom Alliance. Next slide. Furthermore, we worked on innovative digital platforms to fill the youth's FPSI-rich knowledge gaps. We were on Facebook and Instagram handles. We created Facebook page of 50 Shades of Ishq and Khushiyon Ki Shurat. And we had various creative renditions of the same page across the portfolio. Can you come to the next slide? So we created innovative digital assets for the youth to complement the digital promotions that we had. We had a chatbot which provided a safe space for the youth to interact and ask their questions. We had a health guru blog where the youth could write up, and there was a Khulke mobile app which was used by the working youth to get more information on SRH and FP. Next slide. And we got very innovative with our digital creatives, such that it was picked up in a partnership with Bobble AI, and these creatives were used by the youth for sexting, and this actually won us an award, which was basically award for the best mobile category in innovations with Bobble AI. So these were very creative renditions of our campaigns that we used to promote SRH amongst the youth. Next slide, please. And our chatbot was further sustained with SRH content for adolescents. And this was picked up by Reckitt. And this was sustained by Reckitt beyond the life of the project, where we had partnered on a birds and bees talk program for 2 million adolescents in Northeast states. Next slide. We also created the first digital IPV NFP campaign, where we enable women to recognize that denial of contraception is a form of intimate partner violence. And we partnered with Momspresso, which is India's largest digital platform for 30 million women, to implement an influencer-led digital campaign. And we provided support in terms of family planning and IPV helpline services for these women. And this was promoted through social media influencers, and in the dark web they were promoting this campaign and discussing about how this is this can be recognized as an intimate partner violence. Next slide. We further established a partnership with FOXY, and which is Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecologists of India, to improve the quality of SRH care and counseling for adolescents and youth. We updated the adolescent and youth-friendly health services guidelines, and we also provided these doctors with digital tools so that they could reach out to the youth and have more adolescent-friendly services towards the youth. And we had this helpline. This was sponsored by ISON, a private organization, and that's still continuing. Next slide. Behavioral economics made the foundation for the launch of a new condom brand. We used behavioral economics principles to understand what the motivations and barriers are amongst the youth in using condoms, and we developed 200 prototypes for the same. And one of those solutions was piloted in 3 states and to launch a fire brand, which was a partnership with PHSI. Next slide. So some of the key lessons that I would like to share in terms of amplifying the work through partnerships is that we need to have aligned goals, and it could be something like increased sales or the use of FP products. We could align on the target groups. For example, engagement with the youth was one common area which we aligned with Reckitt and with MTV. And we need to have a shared value proposition to advocate to the government, which is what Condom Alliance did. And what we were able to do was to build trust and pilot a proof of concept and get the quick wins, which was important for us to get started. We were able to, in our own way, anticipate and address the corporate hesitance related to FPRH. And this was, it goes because most of these programs do not include FPRH. Most of these corporates are not working in this area. We were able to bring in some complementary skills that the project needed, like negotiation skills or marketing skills, and talk their language. And as USAID plays the role of a neutral broker, we played that role between public and private stakeholders. And how the way we developed our campaigns was always that we would innovate, we will show proof of concept, we will build evidence, and then we will achieve scale by amplifying these communication campaigns in partnership with either the government or the private sector. And we ensured sustainability from the word go, where we looked at partners who could actually contribute to increasing the demand beyond the life of the Shops Plus project. And that's how we were able to create 360-degree campaigns and innovate our SPC approaches and amplify them through partnerships with the private sector. So thank you so much. This is all I had to share. Thank you.
Komal, thank you so much. That very impressive. I mean, just an incredible array of activities and interventions. So, and it's exciting to see the follow-on now with FHM Engage from Shops Plus. So thank you. So next up, and we can advance the slides, I'm very pleased to welcome Krishna Jada from Viatris for the women's health business. So Krishna, over to you. Thank you. I think you might still be on mute, Krishna. Can you unmute?
Sorry. My apologies if I sound a bit hoarse because I'm not keeping well. So just bear with me for this session.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us when you're not totally well. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. And no, I must thank Shankar and Amit for, for their perseverance and, to bringing us on this particular stage where, we are all serious about getting involved into this project. So before I start, I'll just give a brief what is our observation of last few years in India as a private sector manufacturer. So I represent a company called Viatris, the organization which is really committed to play active role in providing access to quality contraceptive products. We have been doing that since last more than 15 years, and we have been supplying our products to various parts of the emerging markets as well as developed markets. Shankar, in his presentation, has highlighted the problems which we are facing, particularly in India. And I'm just going to amplify it more from a perspective of a private sector manufacturer. So what we have seen is that many of us, including Beatrice, we have tried we tried to get into the market, but then we realized after a year or two that we are not able to break even in particularly only focusing on women healthcare or reproductive health products. One of the reason is the market is absolutely fragmented with so many manufacturers, and when you have to bring in the products which are manufactured at WHO pre-qualified facility or USFDA approved facility, it becomes a little bit unviable to compete with so many manufacturers. So that was one of the issues. So there are two things. One is the market itself was, skewed towards more of certain methods. So that was a challenge we have been facing for last few years. And so we have been, on off. We have tried all approaches to reach out to the market, but somehow the things have really not been great for some time. But what we have understood from all our attempts, one thing is very clear that yes, there is a fantastic awareness about the contraception in Indian youth or Indian married people. But when it comes to adoption of contraceptive method, that is where the thing starts or getting skewed towards either towards sterilization or use of condoms. One reason is, yes, we have got the feedback from the market that one of the reason is side effects, which are now the side effect is something. There are so many reasons which I'm not going to get into. It could be because of the quality product. It could be because of the right positioning of the products. So in today's presentation, I'll just stick to the what are the right products at the right age group or in the cycle of women's life. So next slide. So we'll just. So this is what we believe in, that our commitment to quality, because out of our entire range, 10 products are WHO pre-qualified. So that's a kind of area where we specialize. We have around 10 products which are WHO pre-qualified. The next slide. And so I'll not get into this, but this is the portfolio which we cover. We have oral contraceptives, starting with levonorgestrel, then the modern ones like desogestrel, drospirenone, and then chlormaridone, and many others, plus injectable. We are in emergency contraceptives too. So we basically offers a range of products which can take care of various stages of women's life. Next slide, please. So these are the few observations which I think most of the, like Komal as well as Shankar also highlighted, like this is what the situation right now in India. So there are either concerns about the side effects or inconvenience. There's a lack of information on non-contraceptive benefits, lack of ability of range of contraceptive method across geographies. Like, yes, major towns do have all the products available, but when you come to go to type B or type C towns, then you start seeing that the range of contraceptive product is reduced. And the next is most common method is sterilization of condoms. So we'll go to the next slide. So the next slide will probably, this is how we have tried to capture it in one slide, like how we can position the different contraceptives based on the age groups. So traditionally, we have seen that in early stages, 15 to 20 years, the focus is more on cycle regulation and less on contraceptives. And so there are a lot of cosmetic benefits also, which are there. Unfortunately, we in India, that is another problem. What we face is, we hardly get max 2 to 3 minutes when we go to visit the doctors. So that's a very short time we have for our medical reps to explain and highlight the benefits of each product which we offer, because we have a basket of around 10 to 12 contraceptives. So probably the one approach could be, we need to find a way to educate the youth about the various benefits of contraception. So then comes your particularly productive years, what we call it. So that is where we have again levonorgestrel as well as desogestrel like products, which takes care of contraception at a much better price range. Then we have drospirenone, which are again the third generation, which offers the better side effect profile, though they are on expensive side, but it has got other advantages. So this is how basically we are talking about how we can position the various contraceptive drugs which are available today. So that's all from my side. If you have any questions, you're welcome now or at the later stage. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much, Krishna. It's always fantastic to have our manufacturers with us, right? Because without product, there is no option. So I know that there will be more discussion later. And just a reminder to everyone, please go ahead and put any questions or comments in the chat as we go. So next up, we have Vivek Malhotra, CEO of Population Health Services India. And welcome, Vivek. And just to say, for those of you who might be wondering whether the slides advance, Vivek is going to speak with us without slides, which we're perfectly fine with. And we always encourage informal sharing. So don't look for the slides to advance, but let's just hear what's happening at Population Health Services India. Over to you.
Thanks, Andrea. And I'm sorry I don't have slides, but I was asked to work.
अरे तुला मेसेज टाकला तो आहेस का तू काय रिप्लाय नाही केला.
And just a reminder to everyone, please make sure that you're on mute. Thank you.
So before
Hello.
Somebody had muted me. Anyway, thank you. So before I talk to you about our plans for introduction of sub-Q in India, I just want to add to what Shankar and Krishna had said about the Indian markets. So India is called the contraceptive capital of the world, where most of the contraceptives are manufactured in India. But historically, the Indian markets and Indian users who market contraceptives have been used are primarily three: female sterilization, condom, and pills. These three constitute around 97% of the market CPR, and this has been true in spite of our demographic shift towards a younger population, and EC is slowly, gradually picking up. With this history, I want to also tell you that less than 30% of contraceptive manufacturers in India are present in market size. They manufacture for others, but they don't market the products. Whether it's condom, pills, IUD, injectables, we have all the big players in India, but very few of them Only in condoms, you have 30% of the manufacturers present in the commercial market. The rest is even much lesser. And why so where contraceptive manufacturers don't work in India is the commercial viability. Historically, condom pills and sterilization both have been heavily subsidized by Government of India's national program. And that discourage commercial players to come and establish the markets and grow the markets. PHSI is going to launch a DMP sub-Q on commercial terms in Q2 of this year. And we are launching in specific districts in 5 states. Our strategy is based on the current guidelines for this product. The product is currently permitted to be sold only on prescription by healthcare professionals. So we are working with healthcare professionals in training them how to train the women on self-use. And we'll be working with this staff of HCP providers to train the women in self-use, and then work with women in creating awareness about the product. We also are going to work with on-ground partners to understand the self-care journey women takes in DMPS sub-Q. Injectables in India have been very slow, were initially legalized in the early 2000s, but the contraceptive prevalence of use of injectables in India has been very low. Only last 3-4 years, it has picked up, and once it has picked up because government has started giving free in the public sector. Currently, the market is actually does not have DMP sub-Q in India, and the introduction by PHSI will be the first time a commercial product is being launched after the initial launch by Pfizer, and then Pfizer withdrew it. That's the summary of what our intent are. But once we have the products, we will probably have better knowledge and better information to be shared with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivek, for that update. And I anticipate there will be questions about that. Our next speaker is from Nivi, and I'm very pleased to invite Anaka to come on camera and share what Nivi is up to. Over to you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Anaka Rai. I'm a project coordinator at Nivi, and I look forward to highlighting some of our work that helps improve the understanding and functioning of the FP market in India. The larger aim of the Healthy Markets COP is to develop healthy markets that are resilient, responsive, led by local actors, and driven by consumer needs. For that vision to be a reality, supply needs to meet demand. And I'm here today to talk about how Nivi works in the demand side of things and helps people make informed decisions about their health and connects them to health products and services. So that's the background. Before I get into what we do and how we do it, I want to sort of paint a picture of where we're at currently. The perception is that it's all great. Knowledge of contraceptive methods is almost universal in India. There's been an increase in modern contraceptive use by currently married women, and the unmet need for family planning has reduced from 13 to 9%. The reality, however, is pretty different. Yes, the use of modern contraceptives has increased, but female sterilization is still the most popular method among currently married women. More than 50% of women who start using a contraceptive method discontinue in less than 12 months, and 7% of women aged 15 to 19 have begun childbearing. So they've already delivered their first child or are currently pregnant. Why might this be our reality? One, we don't understand consumer segments' unique needs. Regardless of how sex is perceived and discussed in India, youth and adolescents are having sex. 39% of women first had sexual intercourse before age 19, and by age 20, that percentage rises to 60. Two, solutions aren't tailored to their unique needs. So in India, discussions about sex are generally taboo. There's higher stigmatization for adolescents and youth, particularly if they're unmarried. And they also often lack formal channels to obtain information on safe sex and contraception. Sex education programs are scarce, with some arguing that such initiatives can promote risky behavior among children and disrupt the educational environment. Third, existing programs do not meet youth where they consume information. India has the world's largest adolescent population, and by 2030, 90% of India's youth, including girls, will get online. However, there aren't enough options for youth and adolescents to access information about sex and contraception in a safe and private way. Provider bias and privacy and confidentiality practices are significant barriers to young people accessing sexual and reproductive health services. And it's one thing for there to be a general discouragement or taboo around sex and contraception in a society, but when those inform provider attitudes and care, particularly care, that can have significant negative health outcomes. So all in all, young people need to learn in a private and safe environment to make informed health choices. Enter Ask Nivi. Our conversational marketplace not only serves as a safe environment for people to learn about contraception, but in the process helps us do three things. One, identify a baseline for our target population. Two, develop solutions to cater to their needs. And three, help them achieve their health goals. I'll get into each of these in detail now. So in order to adequately support youth and adolescents, we need to first understand their current situation. Where are they? Are they married? Do they have children? Are they currently using any contraceptives? Have they previously used contraceptives? What methods are they interested in or want to learn about? What methods are they adopting? If they're not adopting any methods, why so? So looking at data for 18 to 23-year-olds who've engaged with our family planning health journey, we see that almost 30% of users reported social pressure as a reason that they're not taking up a method. They're either newly married and feel pressure to prove their fertility, or there's pressure to have a male child, or maybe their partner is unsupportive. What's more interesting, however, is that more men report experiencing social pressure than women. We also see that, understandably, side effects is a bigger deterrent to women, and limited resources seem to impact men and women equally, surprisingly. All of this is key to developing a solution that adequately addresses users' current situation and their challenges. This brings us to solution development. What do we now do with the information that we've gathered? One, we develop a practical solution that addresses our target audience's needs and fits into their lifestyle. How do we do this? We meet them where they are. India has more WhatsApp users than any other country in the world. By being on a messaging platform that users already engage with on a daily basis and trust to a certain degree, we're meeting them where they are. Users don't need to download a separate app or get used to a new interface. It's familiar and allows audiences with varying levels of comfort with digital tools to access information in a safe and private manner. Two, we identify market segments to communicate with the right users in the right way. So a broader target audience consists of sometimes many mini audience segments, each with distinct perspectives and values about contraception. These factors significantly shape their behaviors and choices. Three, customization of their experience. Our tailored health journeys offer consumers information that's relevant to them and aligned with their health needs and goals. And we also provide personalized options on where to seek care. We also check in with users after to confirm method uptake, monitor method satisfaction, and support adherence. Future customization efforts are focused on personalization by age and language. Finally, behavior change. Helping people take action to improve their health is our mission. What we realize, however, is that not everybody is ready for change. Behavior change involves changing people's beliefs and attitudes to create an intention to act, but the decision and the ability to act go beyond individual intentions and are shaped by context. Context is, the people around us, the organizations we interact with, where we live, the laws and regulations that govern our choices, etc. Our content and re-engagement strategy works to gently nudge users towards achieving their health goals. I would like to end by giving you a sense of our scale. So where we are in India today, we've engaged over 900,000 users in 1.5 million conversations about their health and provided nearly 26,000 referrals to the health system. That's all from me today. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions and connecting with you after. If anybody wants to explore our family planning journey on WhatsApp, you can scan the QR code and message us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Hanaga. It's very apropos, I think, that you would finish with a code to scan. And that was certainly a fantastic continuation from what Komal shared from the Shops Plus work. And I know that I'm curious later to hear more about the business model for Nivi, which has been an ongoing interest of mine. So next up, we are very pleased to welcome Anantha Krishnan, Senior Program Officer from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to speak about some work that the Gates Foundation has supported. Anantha, over to you. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Andrea. I hope I had a bit of signal issues. I hope this is better and I'm loud and clear. Great again, and thanks for kind of setting up the sequence of presentations. We had the manufacturer, we had one of our SMO, and then we had a lot of digital. So, but obvious, the next logical movement would be towards pharmacies. If you could go to the next slide, please. Across therapeutic areas, it's needless to say that pharmacies are a very important node in terms of service provisioning, be the point of service for a lot of customers, be the logistic point, and many more to it. But having said that, one of the key issues that we continue to identify as we look at healthy markets per se is that there is limited method offering at pharmacies. And that's one of the critical pieces that we look at. A 2022 survey of PharmaRack 400 pharmacies did indicate that yes, there are method choices available in pharmacies, but probably that's limited to at best 2 to 3 choices. As we further move ahead, the fourth and the fifth method choice should be widely available to cater to one needs is kind of lacking. And what could be the reasons for these lack of provisioning at pharmacies? 3 critical pieces stood out. One, definitely pharmacy being a kind of a business entity, they are looking for margins, they are looking to generate cash, they are looking to kind of sustain their business. So product availability with margins was one key factor. The second one, which is more on the demand and catering to customer needs. Definitely pharmacies did say that there was medium to low knowledge regarding FP product themselves. Do note that some of the capabilities at pharmacies is nascent. They're building those capabilities. A lot of them are new. There's a lot of attrition. So definitely the knowledge of FP product was something that was again picked up. The third piece, which is contingent to the second one, is that if the knowledge of FP products is limited with among pharmacists, they're in turn not able to translate that knowledge back to users. So there was also that piece coming through it. Which led to the thinking of an intervention. And if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, thanks. With this kind of a setup where we knew that the core premise is to make sure that how can we kind of make pharmacies work for the end users? So that being the core motive to it. We looked at a couple of key partners, PharmaRack and Japago, most of them very well known within the pharmacy space, and of course Japago is very well known. We looked at, can we look at supporting and testing few hypotheses to achieve a sustainable model to both improve access and availability of FP products? How can we kind of look at various engagement models, which in turn will help us leverage the learnings for further scale up. With this intent, there's a small pilot that's ongoing. Up to 200 pharmacies have been picked up, which are covering both urban and semi-urban areas. And what was technically the intervention that we looked at? It's a two-side intervention, both looking at the demand side and the supply side. Predominantly the supply side managed by PharmaRack, and the demand side managed by the Japago team. There's a lot of busy slide, but I'll just focus on three critical entities. From the supply side of it, it was making sure that the vast basket of products that is available is kind of brought into place into these pharmacies, which meant that connecting them into distributors, stockists. Second, also bring in some of the value addition that the distribution channel brings into the pharmacies also gets unlocked, which could be loyalty, some of the volume-based cashbacks, and some of the discounts that is typically available for large volume products is brought to them. And then also make sure that the education gap or the knowledge gap within the pharmacist is addressed through a potential digital education program. In terms of demand, which is I think is very important, also kind of continue to build the client side of it through community pharmacies providers to continue to provide information FP services, and then connect it back to the pharmacy channel to make sure that once they have the knowledge, are they seeking these products, and then continue to support their journey through counseling, through helplines or providers and various apps. This was the overall program design. If you go to the next slide, please. Again, very early days, and what I present to it is probably the first outcome. I think there's a lot to be learned. I'll significantly caveat it, but there are a couple of things. When you look at the baseline, it kind of validates our initial hypothesis. Condoms, ECPs, OCPs, fairly well stocked, but again, injectables, some of the other options, even the third and fourth generation OCPs, there is a definitely lack of availability to the pharmacy side. Again, there is a bit of dichotomy in some of the commercial brands. Social marketing brands are very strong across Bihar. Again, we are looking at multiple products through multiple channels and various margins. And again, one of the critical aspects is that the distributor side of it, there is again some kind of gaps in the way they are able to provisioning some of these products, which need to continue to build on. In terms of the intervention that we looked at, again, it's a busy slide. Again, I'll not get caught up into too much of details, but four critical things stood up. One, in kind of getting the FP products to pharmacies, definitely a lot of initial work has been done in terms of product distribution strengthening, which is establishing the distributor network, connecting it back to pharmacies, helping them organize the business around that. Second, providing to unlock value to procurement in kind of cashbacks, which you spoke about. How can we continue to do some kind of interventions in making sure that the cash flow, the order to cash delivery, some of the margins is getting unlocked. And then the last two components, which I think is the most important, especially from the pharmacy side of it, is how do we continue to educate and make aware of those pharmacies on the FP products. So a lot of digital modules have been deployed, which in turn is getting now kind of organized for them. Japago is leading that work. And then finally about continuing to direct through the client awareness piece of it, where we are looking at some community champions, which includes local leaders, doctors, educators who are kind of identifying this and briefing this. If you go to the next slide, please. Again, as I said, that these are very early days, a lot to be learned. And I'll also kind of borrow for some what Vivek also mentioned. One, that is very critical to make sure that the FP provisioning is as per the user needs and choices, and pharmacy is a key node. But we also need to be mindful that there are certain inherent challenges in this node in terms of it's a business entity one. The person managing these pharmacies have kind of, they need to still get significant curve in terms of formal qualifications, motivation, time constraints, also critical ask that's going to continue to shape as we continue to grow in this journey. Of course, channel margin and product competitiveness is a very critical aspect. And definitely there needs to be a lot of design optimization in making sure that how we can reduce the cost to serve to the end customer so that this product becomes more competitive within the basket. Of course, we cannot neglect the demand side and the client support side. This is probably what Anaga also said in the Nivi app, that's a most critical piece of it. In terms of next steps, from the first part of it, definitely we're looking at how we continue to address gaps in the distributor pharmacy mapping. How do we focus on the longer set of products in IUCDs, spermicides, female condom? How do you also kind of address opportunities in logistic issues for pharmacies? Mind you, a lot of these pharmacies are getting small ticket item size for procuring their products, and we need to continue to get efficiencies in the logistics part of it. How do you also get provider to bring in optimal client counseling, and also in turn connect back to the pharmacies becomes a very critical part. We continue to explore elements around that. And then of course the last bit is that it's a network problem. How to continue to develop a trusted network where consumers access information in a confidential manner is paramount. And we are looking at multiple other avenues, and which puts the user, and of course gives them ample ability to connect back to provider. It cannot be overemphasized. Again, as I said, that is a lot to be learned. We continue in this journey, and maybe the next time around we'll have further more details in how we are kind of learn from this program. Thanks so much, and again, thanks so much for the opportunity to present this. Happy to take any questions or any feedback.
Yeah, thank you. And you covered a lot of ground in a very short number of minutes, so I'm really appreciating everyone covering so much territory. Really interesting work, and we will continue on. We have a couple more speakers, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So thank you, Anantha. Our next speaker is from the Momentum Project, another USAID project. And I'm pleased to welcome Abhilash Jacob Philip, the Deputy Chief of Party. So Abhilash, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Hi, this is Abhilash Philip here. The USAID Momentum Country and Global Leadership is a global project implemented by JPIGO across multiple countries. In India, we focus on family planning with a specific emphasis on young people. So far, I think a case has been made for a lot of market constraints that exist. A case has been made for stewardship and so forth. But I think one sector that has not been adequately provided attention in the past has been the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So next slide, please. So as when we began working on this project, we took the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a priority sector to so engage. And I think what we immediately confronted with was a chicken and egg situation. In the sense that there are a lot of vibrant startups in India, many of them who don't identify themselves as specifically as an SRH startup. But at the same time, there are investors who feel that it's SRH or the family planning world is not a viable area for their investments, given the lack of good pipeline of innovative products or a potential muted return on family planning and SRH. So trying to address these challenges, we conceived the Yash Ownership Program, which is attempting to drive positive outcomes in SRH space through innovation and social entrepreneurship. And we thought of creating an entrepreneur-centric incubation cum acceleration platform that will focus on mid to late stage enterprises who have had a history of working in the sector for maybe 2 to 3 years. We wanted to improve the SRH outcomes through a very catalytic funding. So I'll be talking about that later, but primarily through USAID's technical assistance and seed funding. And overall, over a 30-month period, create an iterative learning environment that will enable us to sort of identify ways of supporting scalable FP-SRH innovations in India. So with the beginning with the end in mind, we hope that at the end of 30 months, we would have supported a host of innovative solutions in the SRH arena. Out of this, many innovative solutions, given the track record of the startup system, it's a very risky investment. We were hoping that around 5 to 6 enterprises would reach the stage of scale readiness. And we would also create a self-sustaining incubation platform, which would allow for multi-donor, which would be created through a multi-donor investable platform called the Yash Collaboration Platform. More on that later. Next slide, please. So with this, so far, we aim to sort of engage with 20 social enterprises over 2 cohorts. After reviewing through around 200 applications, and a stringent criteria for inclusion, we are now currently supporting 18 social enterprises. And some of these 18 are sort of listed here in the slide. What we offer the enterprises is targeted advisory support, which helps to strengthen the enterprise on multiple parameters so that they are ready to attain scale and expand their markets. All enterprises who went through the incubation support of 9 months, they received around $13,000 as technical assistance funds. And out of this 9-month incubation period, we identify around 6 enterprises who are additionally provided acceleration support worth around 133,000 US dollars. We try to unlock, have a multiplier effect by leveraging blended finance instruments. So the net gain for the enterprise, we hope, is much more than what we give them financially. So many of this advisory support have involved piloting new innovations. So we have a list of almost 200 plus innovations, and our technical assistance support has helped in de-risking and helping identify new market segments that hitherto these enterprises had not covered. So the technical assistance covers 5 pillars. One is definitely identifying the high impact innovations. Second is a diagnostic and solutioning panel where a range of industry experts work with the founders to identify what is ailing the enterprise, what prevents the enterprise from attaining larger scale. And there is a focused 100-day plan that is prepared, and mentorship is sort of provided. And then this business and impact tracking is a vital feature to help us know whether the enterprise is on the right track. So over this period, these 18 enterprises cover a wide range of issues. You might see a lot of them in the, while all of them have integrated in some ways or the other an engagement on family planning and contraceptive issues. The broader other themes that they overlap with are menstrual hygiene. For example, PatCare, which is India's first menstrual hygiene and management service agency, has actually been featured on the Shark Tank, and as also the founder is also listed in the Forbes, top 30, young persons below 30 this year. So we have a range of enterprises working menstrual hygienes, promoting, for example, Bliss environmentally sustainable pads, cups, panty liners, and more innovative new menstrual hygiene products are on the anvil. We work with a range of digital agencies. Last Mile Care has a digital presence combining the power of digital and physical clinics. We work with Pinky Promise, which is trying to revolutionize funding by using AI to reduce gynecological consultation fees. Next slide. Yeah, so all crucial highlights. I think the multiplier effect on the technical assistance has been great. So we have at least 2 million more US dollars worth of funding has been leveraged by our enterprises. In terms of the revenue during our technical assistance period, there is a steady revenue growth, actually an exponential revenue growth, and right now it is 6 million US dollars in terms of revenue. Next slide, please. So far I've been talking about how we are trying to catalyze the enterprise ecosystem. Udan Collaborative is a different initiative under the Momentum Initiative, which tries to bring together various private players who are otherwise fragmented and work in silos. So we hope to improve access, generate demand, and creating an enabling environment for adolescent and youth-friendly services. So at this current phase, we are working with, we have mapped with already almost 12,000 providers and pharmacists, and we hope over the next 1 year, we can onboard another 50,000 providers. Having said so, this 50,000 providers, it sounds like a huge number, but it is only 3% of India's universe of provider base of almost 1.5 million providers and pharmacists. So we hope over the next 5 years, we can engage more of these providers and the pharmacist base by positioning Udan as a network of networks, which sort of engages all social franchising initiatives in India. So it's much broader than providers and pharmacists. We also have strategic partners, including donors, corporates, alliances, and youth organizations. This is managed by the WPP Group and Love Matters, which is our youth partner. Next slide, please. This is the last. Next. Udan represents an attempt to sort of move beyond the constraints of medicalized social franchising to create networks that are based on communication variables. And so some of the strategies for us include creating viable business models to ensure sustainability. So there is a talk of spinning off Udan as a private limited organization in which equity holders include SMOs, incubators, and corporates. And so this is also being positioned as a marketplace that will feature innovations from our Yash and Ownership program enterprises as well. We hope to leverage presence, enterprise, and capital of the private sector by creating this as a multi-donor investable platform, and would allow for flexibility to enable funding to a central pool to enable either going wide or going deeper into our existing geographies. The main center point of Udan is the digital platform, which you can access through www.gotoudan.com. So it features many of the providers that are already part of the network. And what the central value proposition that we are offering providers is, especially gynecologists and general physicians, is that they can optimize their time by using the tools and job aids that the Udan Collaborative has created. To help providers optimize time, we have a helpline, chatbot, and other digital aids. And finally, when it comes to addressing the affordability issues, we're looking at offering demand-side financing in terms of e-rupee and other prepaid vouchers, and in also introducing novel contraceptive micro loans to help young people access large and large products. So I'm happy to respond to other questions later. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, Abhilash, thank you so much. A number of questions come to mind for me, so I'm excited that we'll be able to come back to some discussion. Our last formal speaker brings us in a way back to the beginning, something that Shankar introduced right at the end of his presentation, and that is to learn more about WOLA. And so I'm very pleased to invite Priya, the founder and CEO of Samhita Social Ventures, to tell us what they've got going on. So Priya, over to you and welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. It's great to be here. So WOLA basically stands for a Health and Livelihood Alliance, and I'll talk a little bit about why we're bringing these two things together when it comes to impacting women at scale. Next slide. So the intent of WOLA is really to put the woman at the center. And as we think about her different needs and challenges, what we are looking to systematically do is ensure that we are providing this young girl with everything from access to jobs and livelihood, healthcare services, financial services, etc. And the comprehensive model really responds to the needs that the Indian young woman is currently facing, right? So if you take a look at the numbers on the screen, what you're seeing is a lot of evidence to say that economic empowerment has a direct correlation with a woman's health and well-being, and the reverse causality is also true. That typically we've seen that women who take microfinance loans do better if their healthcare needs are met. And so the intent is really to ensure that we are taking the two critical needs of young women, bringing them together, and we're hoping that the impact will be much larger than trying to address these individually. If we can go to the next slide. So basically, there are 5 pillars of the work that we do under WOLA, and all of these are being designed with the intent to impact at least 1 million women at scale. The reason that the 1 million women number is important is because in a country as large and diverse and complex as India, if we're not designing for scale from the get-go, we're not going to get to the hundreds of millions of women that actually need to be impacted. So while we're hoping to impact 1 million women within the next couple of years, the hope really is that we're creating a marketplace that can serve women's needs at a much larger scale. The 5 key pillars that are important to the strategy are the following. One is, how do you really maximize the number of products, services, information channels, etc., that young women can access across their life cycle? And we're very cognizant of the fact that a woman or a young girl at 19 has very different needs from when she turns 23 to when she's 29 as she goes through her different life phases, right? So we want to be able to maximize both the number of girls that we impact, but also the products, services, support ecosystem that we build around her. The second is really to very simply catalyze resources from the private sector, the public sector, financial markets, and philanthropic institutions in a way that this is not short term, but we are really driving scalable and sustainable solutions at scale. The third, and really, we stand on the shoulders of everybody who came before, but the intent is to really leverage innovations that the ecosystem is already supporting and ensure that they're plugged into this marketplace, as well as identifying new innovations and enterprises that can serve women better. Leadership is important at all levels. The women that we impact need to be leaders in their own right. Women as service providers are important because they understand the needs of customers much better, and also leaders in senior positions, whether it's the government or nonprofits or the private sector, who can really champion women's healthcare needs. And then advocacy is critical because we do want to generate the data and the evidence that are needed for all of these stakeholders to make much better decisions when it comes to supporting women. There are 3 key channels that we are leading with. I think all of you understand the NGO channel. The workplace, very simply, is us going to employers who understand that there is a clear business case between investing in women's health and how they perform at work, right? Both their current productivity as well as their future ability to not just stay, but thrive in the workplace. A third channel, which is very interesting for us, are the common service centers. There are 540,000 CSCs that are part of the Ministry of Information and Technology. The CSCs are in turn run by entrepreneurs. 150,000 of these are actually run by women. The reason CSCs are so fascinating is that we are able to drive commercial models that are led by entrepreneurs to be able to then deliver a series of products and services and information support to the young girls that live in these communities that the CSC serves. So for us, it's a double advantage of supporting the 150,000 women who run these CSCs, who are entrepreneurs in their own right, and then really enhancing their ability to deliver healthcare and livelihood services at scale to young women across the country. And given that the CSCs are spread across the country in urban and rural areas, this is a great opportunity to really leverage a very, very significant and well-resourced government initiative in a way that you're delivering sustainable outcomes. Next slide. So this is the ecosystem that we are building. The young women are always at the center of how we design, how we implement, how we monitor and evaluate, and how we communicate. So their voices, their needs really form the foundation of the entire strategy. What you're seeing immediately around that young girl is access to information, access to products and services, and then access to financing. So we want to ensure that any information that is provided to the girl, and we're partnering with Nivi, then translates into her ability to access those products and services, whether it's digital or physical, whether it's the nearest pharmacy or a gynecologist or a government hospital, and that she also has the money to pay for this. Unless women become customers, unless we shift them from just being grant-funded recipients to actually fee-paying customers, we're not going to see market sort of work for the poor, right? And therefore, I think focusing on the financing component becomes so important. What you're seeing around that healthcare ecosystem is a fairly large set of partners. So today we work with the common service centers, and the work that we're doing with them is to really use AI models to do perfect scheme discovery, which means if I'm 18 years old and my name is Minu and I walk into the nearest CSC, depending on the information I give them, just in my local language, I'm able to figure out what government schemes and services I'm eligible for. So if I say I'm 18 and I'm a girl, then there's a set of services that get unlocked. If I say I'm 18 and I'm a girl and I work in, let's say, agriculture, a different set of services get unlocked, right? So the more information I share, the more government schemes and services I receive. We're partnering with some of India's largest banks, as well as fintech organizations, to basically ensure that girls and women receive access to savings, investments, insurance, and credit to address not just their livelihood needs, but also their healthcare needs. Similarly, we are creating multiple innovations so that it's not just the girl and the woman, but also the set of healthcare providers, manufacturers, and distributors who also get access to credit from this financial ecosystem that we're creating. We partner with LinkedIn and Honest. Honest is the latest network which focuses on education and skilling transformation. It enables us to reach young women across the country at scale. Credit is critical. Like I said, the credit is being unlocked by some of India's largest banks, but also a large number of organizations that are primarily focused on women. So you're seeing, Seva in there, Kotak, which have very, very large credit guarantee programs focused primarily on young women, and also the healthcare providers. We obviously want to give these young women access to business training and market linkages. The more support we give them, the higher their income is, and therefore their ability to really afford good quality healthcare, and therefore sort of close the loop on a comprehensive set of services that we're delivering to them. Next slide. So just very quickly wanted to take you through a girl's life cycle as she goes through Vola. Imagine Meenu, she's 25 years old. She runs a small catering business. She wants some support to be able to really increase her business. And therefore, maybe the CSC or the NGO is able to identify her and bring her into the Vola platform. We're then able to give her a set of livelihood interventions. They could be skilling, it could be social security, it could be a returnable grant as a working capital to improve her business. She also receives access to healthcare information and services. In addition, if she needs a returnable grant or a credit guarantee backed loan specifically to buy healthcare products, she's able to get that too. And then the entire ecosystem also connects her to a set of products and service providers, could be chemists or doctors and others. Next slide. Andrea, do I have another 2 minutes or should I pause?
If you can make it just under 2 minutes, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is just a journey so while Meenu is being provided with all of this support, we also want to ensure that there are a set of healthcare champions that are able to support hundreds of young girls such as Meenu. The reason that that's important is because healthcare is a very private, intimate discussion that young girls have. And therefore, she needs a trusted mentor or a friend who's able to guide her through that journey. So in addition to supporting young girls like Meenu, we're also really building the capacity of champions such as Rima. So imagine Rima, who we work with, is trained by us. She's provided a set of modules which she's able to send to young girls like Meenu. And then Rima is able to link Meenu to the right product and service providers. We can skip the next slide, and I want to just go to the last one. So sorry, if we can stay here for just a second. For us, I think success means the following, right? A, what is the maximum number of women that are able to receive the largest set of products and services? B, how many healthcare providers do we bring on the platform that are not just delivering to women at scale, but really believe that innovation can be funded because there is a large enough market for them to innovate, right, and distribute? The number of financing institutions who go from creating gender agnostic products to gender specific products, particularly when it comes to the healthcare needs of women. And can we really influence the government to unlock all of the schemes and services that young girls and women are eligible for, but today have no idea? And just the last slide is on an experiment that we're running to ensure that we're getting banks and fintech organizations to start creating specialized healthcare savings accounts, simply because women will need healthcare products and services throughout their lifestyle. It's hard for them to access credit every single time, and they shouldn't really they shouldn't really be burdened, right, in any shape or form. And so very early on, at the ages of 18 and 19, we're really creating the habit and providing the incentives and the bank account and the support mechanisms so that they can start really saving for all of the healthcare needs that they and their families will need. I'll pause, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Priya. And I know that more can be discussed through questions. So a huge thanks to all the speakers, and I'm going to turn it over to Judy, who's been watching some of the questions come in and probably has some of her own to guide us in the conversation. Judy, over to you.
I think thanks again to all the presenters. I feel like we need a collective deep breath to process the richness of the information that we have seen presented here today. I'll kick off the question Q&A session by directing a question to Shankar, Amit, and I think Priya. And I think this also would draw a comment from Anaga as well. Looking at the aggregation of solutions being instrumental to augmenting impact by sort of providing a 360-degree suite of solutions for the users and to also connect that user to solution providers. How would we say we would distinguish WOLA from the YEP program? Over to you, Shankar, to kick us off.
Hi, so that's a terrific question. I think it's important to understand the value proposition to the ultimate user. The users are the same, the young of India. So I think that's where the convergence happens. I believe that the differentiation that VOLA and YEP has is in terms of what kind of ecosystem are they each individually accelerating and catalyzing. And so you see that YEP specifically focuses on that early stage incubation and starting the pipeline going on for the future in terms of reaching the young. And then VOLA, of course, has got a different mandate in terms of very clearly articulating who the end consumers are and what's the ecosystem differences. I'll just hand it over to Priya to make the differentiation a little more stark.
Yeah, I think, like I said, for us, success is so in two shape or form, right? Like one is, are we designing sustainable solutions at scale? So ultimately for me, I think, and for the WOLA team, success means do markets, financial institutions, the government look at women not just as recipients of free services, but as customers demanding high quality, affordable products, right? And so it takes a marketplace approach to be able to do exactly that, which is why in that little diagram that we showed you, there were many, many actors that typically one would not see when we fund a project which is only focused on healthcare. You're seeing lots of financial institutions, you're seeing the government, you're seeing business training, you're seeing market linkages, you're seeing the ability to give someone jobs and entrepreneurship opportunities. So really bringing together this notion that more economically empowered women are also much better consumers of healthcare information, products and services, not just for themselves, but for their families as well, right? So I think the big difference is that we're looking to create a sustainable, scalable marketplace of solutions that are designed for women, but in a way that all of the market actors really take women much more seriously than they do today. When we started this work, we realized that financial institutions are gender blind, right? They have no idea that they need to customize better and different products, right? When we started working with pharmacists, they didn't really know how to deal with a woman customer. We're seeing the differences today. We're seeing employers being far more deliberate in terms of how they respond to the health and wellness needs of the women in their workforce. These are all market actors that we're talking about.
And of course, I think it's important to bring Abhilash to understand how he sees the differences. I think the woman as the entrepreneur herself in VOLA is also a clear stark differentiator. But Abhilash?
Yeah, thank you, Shankar. So no, absolutely. So for us, our focus is on individual enterprises. So we have an application-based process of selecting these startups. And so we are in that way not limited to a particular geography. So we pick enterprises based on their theme and their willingness to integrate contraception and SRH messaging into their work. So I would say our work is very enterprise and a particular startup focused. And I think the way I see is FHM does the market development approach where it is trying to create the overall enabling condition for some of these enterprises to thrive. And I think there is a potential for sort of synergy between the MCGL YEP program as well as the FHM program. So we look forward to sort of collaborating for mutual gain. Thanks.
Thank you so much for this response.
Sorry,
yes,
if I
go
may just
ahead.
add one thing, right? I think VOLA's singular mandate is to collaborate with as many market actors as possible. So for us, the more collaborators are in the room, the better it is for everybody concerned, right? So think of us as wanting to intentionally partner with everyone who's on this call right now, as well as their organizations even beyond this.
Thank you, everyone. I am unable to turn on my camera at this point, but I will continue with the Q&A session. I have a couple of questions for Anantha. One being, can subsidies with Malia incentive for pharmacies to expand the basket of contraceptives they offer? And a second question for you as well, can you share some early insights and experience on engaging pharmacies on building their knowledge around the contraceptive methods? Over to you, Anantha.
Sure. Thanks, Judy. I did answer on the chat, but I'll just kind of elaborate a couple of elements. Yes, subsidies are important. They have a value in kind of at least starting off in terms of expanding the basket of choices, but it has its limitations. And in our terms, I think the key from a pharmacy segment is that we need to bring down the cost to serve, which means that how can we kind of crunch the logistic, the supply chain, can we kind of subsume the stockist, super stockist, the distributor line of it should also come down. That's one. The second piece would be is that how we continue to kind of get those savings translated and give it back to the end customer. That also is a very critical piece that we continue to explore. But of course, these are early days. I do not want to take a position out there, but that's definitely a piece to it. And also, I'll probably also invite Vivek to answer this question once I finish the second answer as well. In terms of the second piece, the pharmacy education, again, very early days. Definitely, there's a lot of enthusiasm in picking up digital modules to learn. At this point of time, we have just kept it as very basic learning in terms of getting them to understand the basket of choices, what does it mean, and how they continue to do it. But I think the crux remains is how well these lessons are learned and they are retained by this. There's a lot of churn at pharmacies, and also we are trying to look at how it can be gender intentional, how they continue to do it. Vivek, if you're there, I would also invite you to answer the subsidy question as well, if you're there. I'm very keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Vivek had to step out.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Medical emergency. So I'll ask him and he'll get back to the group.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Thank you for those responses, Abhilash. I think the other question that I think might elicit a little bit of a discussion is really hearing about the business models for the digital solutions. And I think building on that, so would like to hear from Annika, from Nivi, a little more about how this is sustained over time. And I think building on that question as well, I think this goes to Priya, how does the ecosystem sustain itself over time as well? Over to you.
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, I think we addressed this question briefly in the chat as well. So one of our slides outlined our business model. So, first understanding where users are, then developing the solution that caters to their needs and behavior change. Our sort of B2B, B2C model for organizations is specific to the insights they want. Insights on engagement, insights on what users are doing, where they are, what change they want to facilitate, whatever they're interested in specifically. So sustainability from that standpoint is our performance-based pricing to generate awareness, sort of get people to take action on any particular set of outcomes. Does that help sort of elucidate that a little bit? We also have Ben, our Chief Business Officer here, who might also be able to answer any questions on the business model itself.
Welcome, Ben. We'd love to hear from you about the overall business model.
Thanks,
I think it's, yeah.
Saw the question and I jumped in. I should have let Ben answer that. But yes, I mean, the general business model, the bet is that there are overlapping needs in the public and private sector for similar solutions. And there's natural efficiencies in providing a product-based solution to these to these activities. We can generate the awareness, the activation, and deepening and reifying that intent, strengthening that, and ultimately helping that action to take place. That there's a business model we had here over the longer term. So we think of this as a performance-based marketing solution on the site, and both feedback into the supply side. I think a lot of the focus traditionally in the FB space has been how do we subsidize supply side? And while effective in building that out, supply side actors are going to be more responsive and more efficient with those subsidies when they see the demand, the additional demand that comes from working on this generation approach. So I think a demand-led focus can do quite a bit to create that interest on the supply side to effectively respond to and scale up a response that's demand-led. So our business model here as a B2B2C player is looking at connecting that. We'll work with organizations that want to do the behavior change as well as the marketing with providers directly, help our providers be more visible to consumers in our referrals and recommendations engine. And then lastly, creating those insights that allow policymakers, manufacturers, everybody on the supply side, supply chain, to essentially have more visibility, more feedback from consumers. Just pause there.
Can I respond?
Thank you. Yes, please. Quick response, maybe, yeah, and maybe 1 or 2 follow-up questions. Yes.
So I think for us, the young women are as important as the providers. And so there are 3 things that we're doing with young women, right? The reason we're systematically increase their incomes is so that they can afford to pay for healthcare products and services. The reason we're also offering access to savings, investments, insurance, and credit is so that beyond their income, they have other financial products available for them to then make maybe higher value purchases. And that access to finance is never a barrier for a woman to become a customer. On the side of the provider, we're actually addressing or trying to minimize as much market friction as possible. So if you saw in the model, we're actually bringing young women to the pharmacists or to the doctors. We're ensuring that financing institutions have the ability to address any working capital that providers have. We're also ensuring that partnerships with organizations like Nivi ensures that we're connecting a constant source of information. So the entire point of this is to do enough investments in market making so that both the demand and supply become far more, not just sustainable, but also innovative, right? The more women that financial institutions or healthcare providers that they can serve profitably, the more likely that they're actually going to invest in women-specific healthcare products and services, which we haven't seen adequately done in India so far.
Thank you so much for that response, Priya. I think one question that goes to, I believe it's Anantha, is it envisioned that providers would buy the IUDs from pharmacies or women would buy and take them to the provider for insertion? And then a question, I think, for all ecosystem facilitators, how successful has it been getting young women to initiate health savings? Over to you.
Sure. I'll pick the first one. Probably I'm not well placed to answer the second one. I think probably the experts to pick it up. The primary premise, it's fairly well known that IUCDs is a healthcare provider driven product or an choice. But there's a couple of things that we need to note, that there are phases where healthcare providers stock this product. So a lot of capital get tied up. There's a lot of credit that gets passed on. So it's not an option saying that it is either this or that. It could be and or. Definitely, we believe that healthcare provider would continue to stock the IUCDs, and they would be probably the most critical kind of counselors and drivers of this product. But in the event there are certain challenges in stocking that product or the basket of choice is not available, then pharmacies could play a role. But at least the belief is that it's going to be it's not going to be a very significant component at this point of time. But of course, the very fact that pharmacies start stocking this product means that there are more choices available for consumers to look at, and which is not a bad thing in terms of widening the basket of choices. For the second, I would probably defer it to others.
Hey, I'll just add on to Anita's observation. I think one thing we did discover during price analysis in Indian market for all family planning commodities is that the highest value that is unlocked on any commodity is actually the last mile solution provider. So it's a chemist who gets to keep most of the marketing discounts, is the chemist who gets the largest margins. And surprisingly, in LARCs, including hormonal and implants, is the doctor who gets to unlock the biggest value, both on commodity cost and on service delivery cost. So I think it is not an either or. I think it's important that increasingly we look at chemists as an important node. And I think it's something that we would like to test out of how does it look like for LARC, where consumers have enough information and have the ability to choose, but also they need the doctor in terms of service delivery. And then there is this tricky proposition of having a prescription for a service delivery in between. So how do we tie that out and play it out across these three nodes is going to be extremely important.
Thank you, Shankar. I think for that addition, very instructive. I think tackling the last question we'll probably be able to answer during our conversation today. And it's really speaking to either the ecosystem. So again, Shankar, Priya, Abhilash.
I won't speak. I'll defer to other people who have created these ecosystems. One of the things that I would ask us to rephrase and reconsider very strongly from a market development perspective is that this alacrity with which we jump in and ask people to create business models and sustainability indices. A couple of things here. I think by and large, India and the underserved population continues to be poor and vulnerable. So you have inequities, but deep poverty will disappear in India, right? So women will necessarily have, or couples will necessarily have the ability to pay for a couple years protection, whatever the method. I think we are specifically looking for a word that I think Abhilash highlighted, micro loans, or specifically, hey, I can eventually pay for this. I want the best quality. I want you to help me reduce the frictions across this noise, right? Across marketing, promotion, chemist, doctor, and how do you make this journey less frictionless for me? I can pay for it, but currently I don't have money. So it's more of a liquidity crisis. I think how do we do that in terms of user financing? But in terms of demand creation, we do have a very separate section where we call that a bulk of demand creation will have to get done in a very segmented, nuanced way. So there will necessarily have to be costs incurred for reaching the poor. Now that will the poor pay, and will that be turning out into a marketing subscription model? We aren't sure. We might try. What we find is promising, at least for digital players like Nivi, is that as they start demonstrating and bringing more evidence to the table, the marketing part cost of their customer acquisition is going, the manufacturers and the suppliers are going to find it attractive. The donors are quickly asking the question, what's the cost of your customer acquisition, right? So there's a marketing in the P&L. And if Nivi continues to unlock and become and optimize that particular cost, I think manufacturers will find it attractive on the business model end. On the ecosystem facilitation, over to others.
I'll just, thanks, Shankar. So just in the context of Udaan, I think what's interesting is that, we are right now, for example, certain LARCs are available only in certain geographies of India. And what we're trying to do within Udaan is to be the frontline sort of a contract sales team for a lot of pharma companies who otherwise would not have taken interest in some of these poor geographies that we are working in. And what that means is that at this point of time, we are trying to figure out, what's the provider acquisition cost? What is the lifetime provider value if a third-party agency like Udaan were to sort of help in increasing access to LARC in those geographies? So I think ultimately sustainability would come around if there is enough money can be generated, enough revenue can be generated beyond the donor funding. And I think that's where the critical point is. Even with the Yash entrepreneurship, what the focus is on, how much revenue are they generating? I mean, we don't want anybody to just fold up within a few months or a year of the donor funding coming to an end. So sustainable revenue streams is the focus in both the YEP and UDAN. Yeah, thanks.
I think we'll wrap up. I see Dana's hand up, and as FHM's project director, I'd like to give her the opportunity to go ahead and make her comments as well. Go, Dana.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. And I'd like to offer a big thanks and congratulations to all of the presenters today. I think this is fantastic and very exciting and innovative work that's being done in India that will be proved to be a model for countries around the world. And we at FHM Engage very much look forward to sharing all of these lessons across the globe and getting other countries, governments, and private sector interested in learning more about what you're doing there. So again, many thanks for that, and we look forward to hearing the results and how things progress. I'd also like to wish all of you the best for the WOLA launch in March, and we look forward to hearing how that goes. I guess one final sort of comment / question is for all of the actors in the market or engaged in this marketplace is how you see the evolving role of DMPASC and implants through potentially pharmacists with qualified staff being able to inject or insert in India.
Okay, yeah, Dana. So the politically correct answer is that the law of the land requires that only a provider sort of prescribes both these methods. And when it comes to implants, it definitely needs a sort of a trained provider. But I think we will see how the things progress. India definitely has an history of even looking at pharma products as OTC. But I think the crucial role for us is to sort of minimize harm, to ensure that and providers and pharmacists have the requisite information, consumers have access to requisite information, whether it is through websites or helplines or chatbots. I think that's the direction that we would move in. But yes, very interesting. For example, in UDAN, we were doing very interesting engagements with with Organon to roll out what is known as independent training programs, but in which there is a certification by the Organon medical team. But we bring together, providers to sort of to build up their skills when it comes to insertions. Maybe others may have something to say.
Yeah, I would just only add on to that. The reason I'm asking is because actually in Nigeria, the policy now approves for pharmacists who have nurses employed in the pharmacies to inject DMPASC as well as insert implants. And so I think this is an exciting trial period that maybe other countries may be interested in pursuing as well, where pharmacies may have nurses attached to the pharmacy or employed by the pharmacy.
Thank you so much, I think, to everyone and to the speakers and for your engagement and participation. I will be wrapping up the Q&A session now and hand it back over to Andrea to continue with our session today.
Okay, just thank you very much. I know that we wanted to allow a minute or two or more for Moni from USAID India, if she would like to make some closing observations. Moni, over to you, and thanks for your patience.
No, thank you, Andrea, and thank you, everyone. Just wanted to, congratulate all of the presenters. The presentations were excellent. The question and answers and the learnings that you shared, those were very, very valuable. And really, this was really a snapshot of all the exciting work that's happening in India. So definitely, we are happy to share more about our work. But basically, I wanted to just take a moment to summarize that in India, when we are looking at FP markets and the possible challenges as well as possible market development approaches, and how we are looking at improved market environment for youth-centered approaches, we are really looking at 5 essential areas of intervention. So I think we gave you a snapshot about things on demand generation side, how we are looking at social media and online solutions, how are we working with youth to change the entire narrative around family planning and make it more of a lifestyle choice. How do we ensure equitable and accessible products and services for youth through networks like UDAN? And how do we look at inclusivity of the most marginalized? And there are some interesting work which we can talk about more, where we are working with tribal youth and people with disabilities. So that's on the demand side. On the supply side, again, how do we look at the distribution networks, incentivizing those, ensuring that there are, we are bringing more choices for young people, so expanding the basket of choices by introduction of sub-Q implants, etc., as well as the number of outlets that are really catering to young people. So a lot of work happening on supply side as well. The third area that we talked about briefly today was on the regulatory side. Again, how the regulatory barriers and how we are trying to improve the regulatory environment for private sector engagement, as well as examples such as Condom Alliance, etc., where we've been able to get manufacturers to be able to advocate with the government on some of those regulatory issues. And of course, I completely align with Dana that we will have self-care as a game changer when that happens, and we are really looking at trying that out in the private sector under one of our programs as well. So even moving for subcutaneous beyond pharmacy outlets to actually women injecting themselves is one of the ideas that we are exploring. So the third area, demand, supply, and regulation, I talked about. The fourth area is actually financing. And again, how USAID India continues to look at innovative financing and unlocking incentives and margins for the distribution networks, but also user financing. I think very briefly in the chat, we talked about voucher systems, e-vouchers. There are development impact bonds that we are looking at in terms of innovative financing as well. And the last piece we are looking at is innovations. I think we talked about how we are incubating, accelerating, and sustaining innovations that improve SRH. How we are engaging, youth to find solutions for the young people through innovation entrepreneurial ecosystems, as well as how we are working on a lot of innovative digital solutions, game-based solutions, chatbots, etc. So those are essentially the 5 areas across multiple projects that we are kind of working on. We are happy to talk more about it, go in depth, but I think today's presentations really gave you a good snapshot of what we are doing. And thanks for organizing this. Thank you to all the speakers, different implementing partners, other development partners that could join. We had experiences from Gates as well today, as well as all the private sector partners. And we look forward to continuing to work with all of you as we take this important agenda forward. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Moni. You said it all so well. And I'll just throw out that we have had in other instances, countries that had so many potential speakers and so much going on that they wanted to have more than one session. So we certainly invite that possibility with India as well. And just a huge thanks again to our FHM Engage colleagues and our USAID India colleagues, along with the speakers. This has really been fantastic. And we'll just advance to the very last slide here, just to highlight that we are tentatively scheduled for mid-April to focus on Sierra Leone. So stay tuned for that. Elizabeth will share that via an email. And we just needed to schedule around Easter and Ramadan holidays and so on. And please click on the survey or let us know how this program can continue to evolve. And again, thanks Moni, Kamal, Amit, everyone, Judy, everyone who made this happen. We really appreciate it. Have a great evening to those of you in India and a good day for everyone else. Thank you.